the same item. And Mr. Huckleberry, both Supervisor Miller and myself placed this item on the agenda. I'm obviously concerned with Silverbell, and I don't know if the question is for you or for Ms. Cornelio or Mr. Bernal, but what the remaining funds of the $5 million that haven't been spent are, what remaining funds, what's the balance?
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the board, I provided you a communication yesterday on this subject, showing you the list of specific streets that have not yet been completed. What I have done is suspend the activity to complete these particular maintenance areas until the board has a chance to consider whether or not they should be suspended permanently, or whether or not we should continue to look at options that are available to the board, which means the options you have is just simply understand that what I did was to stop the expenditure based on the state transfer magnitude, and so we get a chance to actually give the board some options with regard to how we meet those terms. You can to award all of the contracts and continue to make those improvements. You can selectively pick and choose which ones that you want to continue or not continue, or you can continue what I call deferral of the activity until we have perhaps a better understanding from the legislature for the state, or even potential litigation as to what liability with regard to the 1% issue. So we've got lots of options, and my action is basically to suspend the contract until we've got direction from the board.
Thank you. Any discussion,
Madam Chair?
Supervisor Miller?
My concern here is that last year when we budgeted, the board talked about, and I think specifically stated that this was a maintenance of operations budget. We pulled these monies into what we called a budget stabilization fund, and then we voted to approve spending $5 million. And the concern is the community, we put out these lists, we send them out to our constituents, and they're counting on these roads being repaired. And, not much is going on, but when we send this out, they're beginning to doubt everything that we put out there. They don't believe anything we tell them. We tell them, oh yeah, we're projecting a week, we're projecting a month, and then, 2 years later, we're still sitting there with holes in the road. And now we have this list that was approved by this board. And I remember Supervisor Valadez saying the buck stops here. We're going to be fiscally responsible. We're going to, do what we say and mean what we, and we put this list out, and then we pull it back. And this is the second year in a row, I mean, since I've been on this board, and it's rather stunning to me that we as a board can put something like this out and then with a whim, sweep it away, when these folks, I've been doing presentations all over my district, and I'm sure other supervisors have been doing the same, and then suddenly the monies are gone. We've been out there telling people this. And it is this board's responsibility to direct the policies. And this is what's troublesome to me, is that we just allow this to go on. And one of the things in this year's budget that we discovered is that we're budgeting part-time employees. For example, if somebody's working 64 hours in the 2015 budget, we're budgeting 80 hours. I mean, this is all throughout the county, and it comes up to a total of $1.9 million when you look at that. But we're pulling,
Again, you have to be germane to the issue.
It is, because it's about where the money comes from. So we always take it from the road repairs, and that's the big issues. And so we have in District 1, we've gotten one project done this year, and the majority of these funds in the previous year, we got one $300,000 project. And I don't know about other districts. I see there's a couple from 2, but last year you had a significant amount. And as long as we continue doing this Our credibility is zero in this community. No one believes us about where the bond money's going to go as a result of these kinds of actions. I'm just putting this out there. This is what I hear all the time. I'm sure you're hearing it as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Supervisor Elias.
you know, I don't think some of the things that Supervisor Miller here is just proclaimed are what's happening in people's minds. This is not a whim. The $23 million that we're facing and getting whacked by the state is not a whim. Mr. Huckleberry, I think, is acting on a prudent course of saying, wait a minute, we've got to be careful about our liquidity and what we're doing. There's no tax equity in spending general fund dollars to do these kind of road repairs. So District 5 suffers, District 2 suffers, and to a degree, District 3 suffers.
Madam Chair.
And that, excuse me. And so that's extremely problematic for my residents and for my district. And while I continue to support doing some road repair with general fund dollars, I recognize that it's a hard sell in District 5 and that I have a lot of explaining to do about why we're on the short end of the stick consistently every time this money gets spent. So to me, there's some real problems there that are real and need to be dealt with. Silver Belt in particularly is problematic for me though, frankly, and I support completing the Silver Belt project. The amount of money we're spending on it is not that huge, but it's a critical transportation arterial for us all, especially in District 5 and District 3, and for the people of Marana, and for people in the unincorporated areas of Pima County, and for people in the city of Tucson. It's a highly used road that's a real problem for us. And District 5 ultimately has no way of resolving it when it gets down here to A Mountain. We all know that. So, the more we can do to help Silver Bell Road, frankly, I think the better off we are. I'm willing to support that, but I don't think that any of this is whimsical. I don't think we take this lightly, and I do believe that the people of county believe in us and believe in the county, and that's why we've had the success at managing our money through the most difficult recession since the 1930s, and we've done a good job of it, and I think this board and this community is proud of the work that we put in.
Madam Chair.
Supervisor Valdez and Supervisor Miller. Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I just, would like to comment on this is that, you talk about the inequity. These monies are coming into the general fund from HERF and BLT, and then you're distributing out.
No, they are not coming into the general fund. These are general fund dollars. HERF dollars and BLT dollars are not part of the general fund.
They come into Pima County, and the monies are allocated out to various things, and Mr. Huckleberry has a brochure that shows that $6 million is going to transit, etc. I guess my issue is, when we talk about inequity, the District 1 pays 30% of all the property taxes for all 5 districts. And the concern, whether Richard, it's up to you whether to believe me or not, but I can tell you that is the perception. You may not believe it's reality, but I hear it all the time. And it really is. And people are very upset about the roads. I think you all know that. And so, end of the day, what I would just, I believe that I would make a motion that we continue to utilize these monies as we allocated, as we promised the taxpayers of this county back several months ago.
Prior to the $23 million in cost shifts from the state.
Well, that's an issue with a violation of the state constitution that is a whole other issue, but that we should have never been violating, but it was allowed to go on, and I see we're blindsided at this point because we were allowed to do it. But at any rate, we as a board, I think we lose credibility, and no need to dwell on this, but I would just like to make a motion that we spend these monies as we previously voted and allocate them as we had them outlined to begin with. Thank you.
That was a motion. Is there a second? Motion fails for lack of a second. Supervisor Valdez.
Madam Chair, let me address a few things that were brought up in the discussion of this item before I move on to the discussion of this item as they were already brought up. First of all, there was an allegation made that we have inappropriately dealt with bond monies and that we shift things and do things inappropriately. As I recall, there was a general belief in the Arizona legislature that we had done that. So they passed a bill. And they ordered the Auditor General to audit the bond program for Pima County. The result of that was that not only did we come out clean, but the Auditor General said that all bond programs in Arizona needed to be run like Pima County runs their bond program. I mean, the Auditor General has no reason to be friends with Pima County or any of us, and that's the conclusion that was drawn. Now, going back to the 1% money that we were allowed to do, the 1% was passed by the voters of Arizona, I believe in 1986?
80.
Oh, 1980. When a proposition is passed by the voters of Arizona, it is up to not the Pima County Board of Supervisors, the Arizona State Legislature to adopt enabling legislation. We did that during the 7 years that I was there, and I believe that happened before and since at such a time. So it was not Pima County that was allowed to do it incorrectly. It was the legislature that came up with the process and the enabling state statutes that was the process. Now, the reality is, going to this specific issue, we potentially could be hit with at least $23 million of new cost shifts, 18 of which is going to come down to the 1% monies. Now, if we litigate it, obviously, I think none of us are under the illusion that it will be a quick litigation. None of us are under the illusion that, oh, let's not come up with the $23 million in next year's budget to pay for it, because we're sure that it'll be resolved or by that point in time. No, the truth is that this board is going to make some decisions that we're not going to like. I have 2 projects in this list that are going to be put on the back burner, that aren't going to get done in the time that they're supposed to be happening. But the truth is that if we don't start making these kind of decisions, that's $2.3 million of the $23 million we're going to have to come up with that we're going to have to figure out, as opposed to saying, stop right now, we'll figure it out when we eventually get to it, and we fill at least $2.3 million of that $23 million right now. Do I like it? Absolutely not. No way do I like this. Is it something that I feel we need to do? I think it's fiscally prudent to do and otherwise stupid not to do. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any further comments from board? Any motions? I really think because of the activity on I-10, as well as the fact that Silver Bell is an arterial in bad condition, and we also, who has the phone? Please turn your phone off. I do believe, Mr. Huckleberry, Ms. Cornelio, that the city and Marana are all working on Silver Bell, and that we would just, if we did not move forward with Silver Bell, there'd be that gap. Is that, I think that, well, Ms. Cornelio or Mr. Huckleberry.
Madam Chair, yes, City of Tucson and Marana have agreed to cost share with the county, each paying our proportionate share of that improvement, and therefore, yes, we'd be kind of the hole in the donut if we didn't continue with Silver.
Thank you. And with that, I'm going to move that we at least move forward, from Silver Bell, which is estimated to be about $321,000, based on the comments that were just made regarding the other jurisdictions moving ahead.
Madam Chair, I'll second that because we need to live up to our promises, and that's one of the ones we made.
There's a motion and a second. Roll call if there's no discussion.
Supervisor Diaz?
Aye.
Supervisor Miller?
Aye.
Supervisor Valdez?
No.
Chair Brunson?
Aye. Motion carries 3-1. Moving